What's good, y'all? Welcome back to Conversation Piece, your place to discover the untold stories of Indianapolis and all of its beautiful people. My name is Patrick Armstrong. I am your host, and this is The Open Door, a monthly series where we literally open the door to the studio and sit down with members of the community to talk about whatever's on their hearts. If you want to learn more or you're interested in participating, go to conversationpiecePod.com and click on the open door. And last but not least, shout out to Life in Indy and the team over there for sponsoring this series. So without further ado, let's get into it. My guest today is my friend Sarah Harker. Sarah,
hi.
Thanks for joining me.
I'm so glad to be here.
I'm super excited to have you here. I called you my friend because I feel like we've connected virtually and we are for sure virtual friends, but this is the first time I think we've really sat down to have a conversation. So I'm sorry that it's limited to 15 minutes, but I think we're going to get into a lot in 15.
I think so too.
To start us off, for folks out there who don't know who you are, do you mind sharing just a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. So I, in my past life, was a nurse. I like to say about 10 years ago, I left the field of nursing, which is a kind of a fun fact that a lot of people don't know.
All right.
And now I live in the business world, mostly with female founders in Indianapolis that have under usually about 5 full-time employees, and I help walk them through growth all the way through to sale eventually.
Nice.
Typically. Yeah.
What prompted the transition from nursing to business focus?
That's its own episode. Patrick. That's a lot of explanation.
Give us the 60-second elevator pitch of why you left nursing.
Okay. I was taking care of my coworkers more than my patients, possibly, and that was where I was loving it the most.
Sure.
I am old enough that I was around when there were really safe ratios in the hospital and you were able to talk to your patients and get to the bottom of what got them to where they are.
Sure.
And that changed pretty quickly in my time in nursing and realized I could be a better support with the staff and the people on the floor than even the patients.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
So how do you get involved in I'm going to help specifically female founders of very small businesses do the damn thing?
Yeah. So part of that, when I first stepped away from nursing, I started a company called Healing Healthcare Project, where I worked with those people that were on the floor and helped them get through burnout. Quickly figured out that rather than my mission, which was to keep the good people in healthcare, I was telling all of them to leave. So kind of a problem when you're not, going for the mission.
Sure.
And one of the things that kept me from doing that the longest was I was a little bit afraid to get into the competitive world of business.
Okay.
And I thought, I'm really a collaborator. I love lifting other people up. I hate that competition that comes of people thinking only one of us can be here for this.
Sure.
And what I found was the exact opposite, a super collaborative world, especially for women in business and indie. And there were quite a few people that came around me and introduced me to other people and opened doors for me that way, where I was really able to get people the help that they needed because of that.
I love it. We talked a lot on the show about the small business entrepreneurial journey. You talked about doors opening for you and a number of people doing that, which was a surprise as you stepped into what ended up being a very collaborative process for you. What were those first doors that you actually stepped through, and who were those first people that connected you and embraced you as opposed to keeping you at arm's length?
Yeah. Oh man, there's a list. One of our mutual friends, Jennifer Magley, was probably the first person to reach out, which if you need a support system, that's a darn good place to start.
You can stop there probably and be all right.
Yes. Jen is taking over the world.
100%.
Yeah. So oddly enough, I heard a podcast with her and a friend of mine, Erin Bridgman, and I heard her voice when I was at a car wash. And I was like, I'm sorry, this is weird. Are you Jennifer Magley? And we've been inseparable ever since.
That is incredible. I think you can't help but be infected by her energy.
No.
And I think infected is probably the incorrect word, but be inspired by her energy when you're around her. So I love that.
Yeah.
So you get into it, you pivot from telling people to leave healthcare to telling people how I'm going to help you with your business. What were some of those first unexpected challenges? Because you came across some unexpected triumph in like, oh, this can be very collaborative. I don't have to compete necessarily. What were some of the things that you found ended up being barriers for you?
Oh man, for specifically speaking to women in business, funding.
Oh, sure.
I mean, that's kind of the obvious one, right? I think that was the one that I expected. I'm really good at asking people for money and spending other people's money, as my mom would say. But so that's one that was kind of expected, but also, obvious. I think I heard this on one of your other podcasts. There's, for all the venture capital in the United States, 2% of it goes to women and under 1% to Black women. So it's a pretty crazy amount of need when it comes to finances. You're seeing over 49% of people creating businesses every year are women, and that's not very much funding.
Right.
Yeah.
So you are starting your own small business. You're also helping other women who are starting their small business, and funding being a number or a top barrier for not just you, but obviously for all of your clientele as well. To me, that reads competitive, but like you're approaching it from a collaborative sense. So like can you walk me through like how you keep that collaboration front of mind when from an outside perspective, it looks like, hey, we're all fighting over the same pie?
Yeah, sure. Well, it really depends on the niche. So I work with women in a lot of different types of businesses. Yeah. But I think just having the will to go out and ask is one. There's a lot of people I'll hear talk about funding, and I'm like, well, tell me about who you've talked to so far. And they're like, oh, that's on the list. Sure. So I say that a lot. Yeah. There's actually asking for the funding is a big piece. And then I think it just depends on what your vision is and what your goal is. If your goal isn't to be a competitive person and your goal is to go out there and support other people, and so the whole city wins, then that's a great place to come from. But I think besides finance, the thing that was surprising to me was the time. And I think being a small business owner, you can understand this. It costs $0 to like your friend's post, share your friend's post. So, there are some other things like that I think as I'm coaching other people through how to support their own business and ask for that funding, we're also looking at ways that they can help support other people. And in turn, it just helps everybody. Yeah. So something that we've talked about here, and I keep bringing up, especially this year, is that like Indiana has positioned itself, I think, based on conversations that I've heard, as a home or the hub of small business for small business owners. However, when I talk to small business owners, I don't necessarily get that sense from folks. And I'm wondering like what the disconnect might be. And as somebody who not only is a small business owner, but works exclusively with those folks, from your perspective, what is that like dissonance between how we're messaging it and like what the reality is? Obviously multifaceted. Right. I think all of my questions have many answers. Like I said, that's why I'm like looking at my notes. So I say here because there's so many different answers to that. I think one is a lot of people don't know about it. There's so much support that's available and there's also so much noise that it's hard to filter through. Okay. I think that's one piece. I think people get down on asking for help for themselves. They want, I think it's a Hoosier thing also, as well as a female thing. And in my line of work of asking for help is a really difficult thing to do sometimes. Yeah. So I think as far as being a small business owner in Indiana, we need to be a little bit less noisy and more focused when it comes to those opportunities for those small business owners to keep more here. Yeah. Well, I think that's the thing too, is like I have heard of a lot of different things that are available for small business owners. And I'm like, why haven't I not heard that until this person's come on my podcast and they're like, oh, this is what I tapped into. I'm like, oh, well, I wish I would have known about that, or whatever the case might be. And like you said, there's a lot of noise that kind of makes it a bit confusing. How do you cut through the noise? Yeah. Well, the thing that I tell anyone that I work with is most importantly, the mantra of I have the ability to be influential and stand in that. So when you change things and look at it through that lens of the people you're serving need you and you can be influential in that, then you are able to get a little bit louder yourself and look for those things that can help support your business so you can reach those clients. Who were some of the people that
affirmed you in taking the risk?
Yeah. Oh, man. At the beginning, if we're talking about when I first left nursing, there weren't very many.
Sure.
It was actually pretty limited. It would take me a while to come up and figure out those names of people. I think especially when you're taking a big risk that's a huge life change, sometimes people are like, oh, let's step back and wait and see how this goes. And if they sink or swim before we jump in. My husband is wonderful. He is risk averse. And I mean, he wasn't even on the list of like, let's go for it. It was very cautious. And I think, just living in the world that I live in, that's pretty common around here. I like to compare that to kind of having a baby. I always say, when you're pregnant, you pee on the stick, you are a mother, and that is like all consuming. Whereas your husband isn't really a father until he holds that baby. It doesn't really like hit them. Yeah.
That's why people, when Emily was pregnant, people were always like, how are you doing? And I'm like, I'm fine. Like, my body has not changed. Like, I don't have any of the, like, whatever's happening to Emily. Like, she's the one bearing the burden of having, like, another person inside of you. Yeah, like, totally. I don't have to worry about any of that. Yeah.
Well, that's how I kind of explain starting a business to women who are just jumping into that is, wait until you have that first paycheck and then he'll hold the baby and he'll understand. Now that I'm on my second business, my husband is my biggest supporter beyond. And I'm so excited to see that. He was a great supporter before. He was just a, what's the word? Just a careful, cautious supporter.
For sure. Well, I think risk averse is the appropriate term. And I think that I know a lot of people in my life that are like that too. They're like, let me see what happens. And then I'll be like, yes, I knew it the whole time. What are you talking about? I was always there.
So sorry, you were asking me about who had supported.
Well, and you kind of said that you didn't really, it would be hard to come up with names because there really wasn't a lot of people. So maybe instead of like who, I'm interested in if you could just share like what it was that helped you push through when it seemed like you were kind of on an island.
Sure. Yeah, I think it was just knowing in my heart that, okay, this is where I have to go. I'm a person of faith. So I think that had a lot to do with it as well. And that mantra that I always go back to and share with other people of, I know that I have the ability to be influential and I have people that need my expertise and that I can be there for, that just kept me going. Yeah. And that was really the first step in that direction. As time has gone on now, I don't know if it's because they've seen, like you've said, like they, the success now, but I would take me forever to name all the people that I've met. And I didn't know those people before I got into the business world. And now that I've surrounded myself with other people who have been in those circumstances and know what that's like to take those risks, there's so much support around. So, I mentioned Jennifer Magley, obviously Janine, Leslie Bailey, Lativa and Starla were on here as well. So we've had a lot of overlap there. Lativa's always a cheerleader. And just
name one of IBJ's top or 40
under 40. Yeah, girl.
Amazing. Shout out to you.
Yeah. So I could go on and on for that for a long time. For sure. But I think that's a big piece is you've got to find those people and then you'll start seeing things coming together more as well. We need each other. And then one that I think is kind of a rare piece of advice is to not make it all about you and that business. I think I try to set things up in a way that there's over 10% of your time and your money that you're giving back to other people in the community. Not just so that you can meet more people, but because it's things that you have similar values that align and you want to see change rather than, crossing your fingers. Get involved in that. There's so many great organizations in Indianapolis from Exodus Refugee and the Immigrant Welcome Center, Indy Reads, Seeds of Caring, lots of different places that you can get involved and become a part of that community, which I think is just as important as writing a business plan.
For sure. Lots of opportunities here. It's just about do we know about them? And I think you are a person that puts people in touch with or in connection to a lot of these opportunities. Leslie Bailey came on to the Open Door last month because Sarah, I reached out to, I was like, hey, I had somebody drop out. Can you come on? She's like, I'm about to get on a plane and here are 3 other people who can come on your show. And she said, if none of those work out, I got more. So that's the thing. that's the collaborative mindset of it. we're definitely gonna have to have you back for a fuller conversation. But as we wind it down here, I got 2 more questions for you.
Okay.
As somebody who is deeply ingrained in this city, has become part of that connective tissue of the things that make Indianapolis, Indy, what does the city mean to you?
Oh, my word. Oh, I think the biggest thing it means is community. I actually grew up in Illinois, but I had a lot of family here in Indiana. I came monthly to visit, and I remember looking forward to coming to the Circle when Circle Center Mall was a big deal, and we had all the window displays. And I don't know if you remember back then, but it was just a magical place.
Yeah.
And even then, when I was a kid, I could just tell there was something so different that was drawing me to Indianapolis. But I think I love how you touched on moving our small businesses into Indy and how that's such a push right now. I think that the biggest thing there is just that community of people who are Hoosier hospitality.
For sure.
There's not a lot of times the news features that nationally, but we're working on pushing that out there more.
For sure. Well, I would say I know a lot of people have come through the show who are transplant here who talk about that a lot. The welcoming, the familial, the communal aspect of the city. And I think it shows through. Sarah, thank you so much for coming and giving us a little bit of your time. As we wrap it up here, last but not least, for anybody out there watching and listening right now who wants to support you, maybe work with you, maybe figure out how do we follow you, how do we find you, how do we tap into what you got going on, how do we do that going forward?
Yeah, sure. I live on Instagram. That is my world. So you can find me fastest there, a lot faster than calling me. So it's at Sarah Jessica Harker. So Harker with an H.
Harker with an H.
Get it? Like Sarah Jessica Parker. But
okay, I do get it now. I did not get it before. I just assumed that was your full. Is that your full name?
That's not my real middle name.
All right. Well, now you learn something every day.
Yeah. Just love the show.
Well, we will have that linked in the show notes. Sarah, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Make sure you check out Sarah's work and everything in the show notes here. ConversationPiecePod.com for everything Conversation Piece related. Shout out to Life in Indy for sponsoring this series. And until next time, I have been Patrick Armstrong, and this has been The Open Door. See y'all soon.